So welcome back. I think that was a very illuminating session. Crescendo is building as we go over to the next session. So stay tuned. I'm honored to welcome Raj Koneru, founder and CEO of Kore.ai. Conversation is one of the most important ways to interact, and AI-driven systems are starting to hold up their end of the conversation. Raj has over 25 years of experience in founding and building enterprise-focused companies. He has built and scaled 5 companies, 2 companies to IPO on NASDAQ. Kore.ai was founded in 2014. Just one fun fact, Raj grew up dreaming of directing and producing mega blockbuster Indian movies. However, ended up producing one of the most incredible companies. I'm sure he'll get back to his passion one day. It is my honor and utmost privilege today to introduce Raj, my CEO, for this keynote session. Moderating this session is Hailu. Sol is a vice president at March Capital, where he focuses on fintech and other enterprise software. Prior to joining March, Sol was principal at Tusk Venture Partners, where he invested in early stage technology companies. Sol also worked on investments for Lemonade, which went IPO, Coinbase, Bird, Sunday, and Care Of, which was acquired by Bear. Sol was also featured by Forbes' annual 30 Under 30. So please enjoy this session, and which comes with lots of learning. So over to you, Sol, to take it over.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction. I'm happy to be here, and Raj, thank you for joining. Excited for this conversation. I thought we'd kick it off with just the interesting fact that your family was in the movie industry. How's that affected your view on kind of entrepreneurship as a serial entrepreneur?
Well, thank you, Sol, firstly, and thanks, Minnie, for the introduction there. I really appreciate that. Well, I mean, the movie industry, as you know, is a creative industry. There's no formula for success. It's all based on the creativity and the ideas and the execution. So I think that's exactly what entrepreneurship is all about, basically. So there is no formula for success. It's the innovation, it's the ingenuity, the ability to adjust to changing circumstances, hiring a great team, taking care of your customers' needs, giving the customers what they need, and then supporting them. So that I think creates a lot of anxiety, but it also creates a lot of excitement. So it's the same thing in the movie industry.
No, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. And similar to the movie industry that, is global, has a global audience, what you're doing at Kore also has a pretty global reach. Can you just tell us a little bit more about how you see yourself as kind of an international organization, as we're seeing other AI companies like UiPath really take center stage? How have you seen the environment change?
Well, I suppose adoption of technology today is not first done in the US, then flows through to Europe, then to Asia anymore. I think with the cloud and SaaS adoption, it happens simultaneously everywhere. UiPath is a great example of going global first and treating North America as another region that they have to focus on. So we're global. I mean, we're in North America and Europe, in Asia, and other parts of the world. And the needs of the customers, 80% of the needs are pretty much the same. Essentially, in our case, we're trying to automate business interactions between an enterprise and their customers and employees and suppliers. So those same needs exist everywhere. So the ability to access a global market today versus, let's say, 10 years ago or 20 years ago is much, much easier. The investment required is less. The only challenge sometimes we feel is the talent pool available for sales and marketing and customer engagement is less so in other markets than in the US, but it's an increasing talent pool. So I would, go global day one, which is what we've done.
No, absolutely. And when you think about the past 18 months in this global pandemic, how has that impacted your business, your leadership, but also the space and how you've seen the acceleration of adoption of new technology, essentially, to stay in business?
I mean, obviously, the pandemic, the story of the pandemic will be written for ages that come as a horrible event in human history. In our evolution as a technology industry, I think we, in general, I believe adoption of new technology has rapidly increased due to the pandemic, and there's been a net gain of the growth of even small startups or mid-sized startups growing much faster than they used to prior to the pandemic. In our case, it's, everybody's looking for productivity gains. Everybody's looking for automation. We're squarely in the automation world. In the automation world, it started with RPA, moving data from one place to another and automating a manual process. We're in the process of automating, manual interactions, answering questions, executing transactions. So that's a need that's only accelerated. So we've grown significantly last year, and we expect to grow even more significantly this year. We grew over 90% last year. We expect to grow over 100% this year. So it's sort of, I think, helped us. But despite the pandemic, I think that train had already left the station in terms of enterprises wanting to automate interactions in our case.
Absolutely. No, I think, the idea of AI machine learning has been around for a while, but we're just seeing that ROI at scale, especially within the enterprise. What excites you most in the next 5 or so years? Is it kind of more incorporation of video, given that we're kind of in a Zoom world, or kind of what are your thoughts in terms of what excites you as you look ahead?
Well, I mean, AI has lots of different disciplines, and we're focused mostly on conversational AI. And I think the biggest impact of conversational AI is going to be primarily in sort of fast forwarding the pace at which business moves, the speed of business, basically. Because if you think about interactions, between employees within a company or employees with customers, there's so much elapsed time between a customer asking a question, you answering it, and then there's a question that comes back, and then there is a consideration that goes on back and forth. As you know, in the enterprise software world, it's a 6 to 12 month sales cycle, and when you break that down, a lot of the time that goes by is just scheduling to meet face to face or on Zoom or whatever, and a lot of that can be automated, basically. And I think some companies have done a great job of putting out their content out there in the form of FAQs, learning courses, and things like that, which I think is a trend that will continue. So where we're excited is that conversational AI will cut down that time and therefore enable customers to make decisions faster, enable executives to make decisions faster, and things will move faster, which means that customers and enterprises in general will get that revenue growth faster and that profit growth faster, basically overall. So we believe that conversational AI has a bright future. We're only at the tip of the iceberg. Very little automation has actually been deployed so far, but there is a need in pretty much every industry to automate those interactions.
No, I think you make a great point, and just the market is massive because it's across industry and across every function. So the applicability is in every business unit. As a CEO, as you're selling this product to an international organization, I imagine there's a lot of friction that is in that process. how have you thought about kind of for the other founders watching scaling the business, given that you're in so many markets? What have been kind of the challenges?
Well, there are two paths we're taking. The more traditional enterprise, go-to-market path, which is the large enterprises. You engage them through marketing and sales and direct sales, and you execute a sales process. But we are most excited about putting out the platform and the solutions that we have out there on a freemium model, putting out all of our knowledge and courses and tips and tricks and templates and accelerators and all that out there in the open for people to access without any issues, basically. And we are putting some marketing behind that to get people to come and learn and try and then graduate to a buying stage. So we believe that if we can lower the barriers to knowledge, and if we can make the entry point of a customer to get started to be very low, in terms of the pricing, we believe that we can get even large customers to, try and buy online rather than, having to engage with the sales team and go through that entire rigmarole, if you will, basically. And also associated with that is the pricing. So we believe that the model is shifting from has shifted from perpetual to SaaS-based, subscription-based pricing, and is very quickly shifting to more usage-based pricing. And we're making that leap to move towards usage-based pricing with very low entry points, and all you pay for is support.
No, I think that's definitely a trend we're seeing in the industry, and it also makes sense. You're building true alignment with your customer. They know what they're getting, and they can sandbox the product, and it just makes it more efficient on both sides. So I know we have a little bit of a time crunch here. So one question I wanted for you to ask the audience is, what do you think both within the enterprise and founders should be asking about how they can better use AI and ML to create efficiencies in their own business? If you were kind of, what questions should your customers be asking in terms of how they can make their business more efficient, I guess I should say?
Well, I suppose the question the customer ought to be asking is basically two things in my mind. Tell me, can the AI tell me something I know I don't know? Or can the AI tell me something that I don't know, basically? And if the answer to one of the two is yes, I guarantee you there's an ROI. I guarantee you there's an opportunity to enter a new market. I guarantee you the customer, has been doing things a certain way, and that will change going forward. That's a very abstract, question, but it is very relevant, in many, many use cases and industries, essentially. Now, that doesn't mean AI is all about insights. It means that AI can help with various business processes, including interactions, including RPA, including various other places. But fundamentally, those are the two questions that I think customers ought to ask, and two questions that entrepreneurs have to answer.
Got it. And I actually think we have a little more time than I anticipated. What sectors do you see this impacting most right now when you think about the next 2 years that AI just hasn't penetrated and you see a lot of opportunity in at all?
Well, in our space, AI, conversational AI penetration is still very early. So, all industries are game, but we see the highest adoption in those industries which have large consumer bases, where there is a lot of interaction with hundreds of thousands, if not hundreds of millions of consumers, basically. So whether that's through voice or through digital channels. And we tend to automate both a voice interaction and or a digital interaction without having to write code and making it very difficult to get there, essentially. So I think the early adopters have been in the banking space, some in the insurance space, some in the telecom space. But those are the same early adopters in most technology areas. But specifically in this area, the volumes are so large and the benefits that one can get is so large that they're the early adopters. But we're seeing adoption in retail, in pharma, in healthcare, in CPG, in manufacturing. And use cases are not just customer facing, they're internal facing. So internal IT support, internal HR support, procurement support, legal, finance. So we're seeing more customers select a platform as an enterprise-wide standard and start building a COE and build a program, a 5-year roadmap to implement conversational AI across the company to make the enterprise conversational in that regard.
Got it. And you actually hit something that an audience member is asking about on the legal side. They ask, can AI be used in governance and lawmaking mediums soon as well? Obviously, it's a loaded area, but what are your thoughts?
Well, my thought is simple, right? I mean, I think there's a low-hanging fruit. The low-hanging fruit is the 80-20 rule. 80% of interactions are simple questions, business inquiries, general inquiries, simple transactions, simple interactions overall. So the 20% end up being where you need to discuss, debate, make, brainstorming, whiteboarding, whatever you call it. Those I don't believe are automatable anytime soon with AI or any other technology, basically. So I believe, and in general, AI, I think beyond conversational AI, has to be focused on the 80%, that is the low-hanging fruit, whether it's, computer vision, whether it is conversational AI or anything else.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense, and it gives you the tools to have the discussion and spend your time where you have the highest impact, and not necessarily they give you a canned answer. So, no, I think that's super exciting. I think you're doing great work at Kore, and we're excited to see what the future holds for you and the company broadly.
Thank you so much, Soloman.
So thank you so much, Raj and Sol. That really was a very interesting conversation, and I'm sure I got a lot out of it, and I'm sure so did the audience. So thank you so much.